Well, obviously we're concerned with what's going on in Ethiopia. We call on us for a ceasefire on the part of all parties.
Canada and 15 other nations are calling for an immediate end to hostilities in Ethiopia. A joint investigation found widespread human rights atrocities committed by all parties to the conflict. The year-long war has caused the deaths of thousands and displaced 2 million people. Last week, the government declared a state of emergency, and Ethiopia's prime minister called on citizens to take up arms and defend their neighborhoods against advancing rebel forces. As the situation deteriorates, Canada is withdrawing families of embassy staff and non-essential personnel. Samuel Getachew is an Ethiopian-Canadian journalist. He's in Addis Ababa, Ethiopia. Mr. Getachew, thank you so much for speaking with us today. Before we get to what's happening on the ground right now, can you set the stage for our viewers and tell us about the warring factions in this conflict?
Well, this conflict began a year ago. The fighting happened in Tigray between the Ethiopian forces and the TPLF, the Tigray People's Liberation Front. So it's been going on for a year. The Ethiopian side accused the TPLF of attacking its base, its army base in Mekelle, and that's what the Ethiopian side is saying provoked this conflict. But the TPLF is insisting that it was really a fight of its right to hold an election, which they did, which the Ethiopian side said it's against the constitution. So this conflict, while it began a year ago, has really been building up, and that's where we are at the moment. A conflict that has affected millions of people. More than 2 million people are affected, displaced. Many people are facing food shortage, bringing Ethiopia to an old era of famine. And a conflict overall defined by a legacy of sexual violation that has happened to many, many women and young girls.
So you're sort of getting at what the emergency situation is on the ground right now. The Prime Minister has declared a state of emergency and even issued a call to arms for citizens. How would you describe what's going on the ground right at this moment?
Well, the state of emergency is comparable to what Pierre Elliott Trudeau had in the 1970s during the War Measures Act. We've had it in Canada. We know how it looks like. It's giving the rights of the public to the state in exchange for the public to get some kind of security. So we have more inspection. We have more knocks on the doors. We're randomly asked for IDs. The government insists it's in the interest of the public to keep them safe from the TPLF, which they say is a terrorist organization. Earlier this year, the Ethiopian government declared the TPLF, which led the Ethiopian government for 27 years until 2018, a terrorist organization. And that's what's happening. But there are many people that have been asked to register their arms, take up arms, and defend their interests against what the government says, the city hall, Addis Ababa City Hall, says is in defense of your interests, saying the TPLF would come and harm you. That's what they're saying.
This conflict began in the northern Tigray region in Ethiopia, but there are reports right now suggesting that towns further south have been seized. What more can you tell us?
Well, you're referring to Afar and also Amhara, Desse and Kombolcha. Kombolcha is a major town within Ethiopia. It's where money investment has gone to, international investment, including from China and from Turkey. The Turkish company has been building a railway worth $1.7 billion, started almost 10 years ago. So it's an important city. The Ethiopian side insists it hasn't been captured. There are fights, but the TPLF is saying they've captured it. They, in fact, are approaching towards the capital while they've taken those cities under them. So again, in a conflict with no communication, telecommunication, and a system to verify, it's really, really hard to verify this information.
Canada, the U.S., and the UN Security Council and the African Union have all called for an end to the hostilities. Do you see any sign that could happen anytime soon?
Well, the African Union sent its envoy to Mekelle to speak to the leadership of TPLF. He is expected to present his finding to the UN, to the Security Council in New York. It's really early to find out exactly what he found out and if there is any compromise. But between the Ethiopian government side and the TPLF, there doesn't seem to be any interest to even sit down and negotiate. There's no interest for a ceasefire. So if there's no interest between both sides, the Ethiopian side is saying it's for the foundation of the country. The TPLF is saying they're trying to prevent genocide. Talking about this kind of words and allegations going back and forth, it's really difficult to see an end in sight, and more people will be affected by it as a result.
So what are you watching for next?
Well, we're watching what the UN is going to say. We're watching what the Ethiopian government is saying. They've said it's about the foundation of the country. The world, especially Western nations, need to respect the independence of the country. Ethiopia is a country that was never colonized, they like to say, within the continent. So, and it's really, we're taking it day by day. And we just hope, I personally hope the best for Ethiopia. I'm a Canadian citizen. I moved from Ottawa. I grew up watching you. I shouldn't say I grew up watching you, but I watched you. I watched, everything that's Canadian, and I have two homes. I've always said, but I also want the best for Ethiopia. I came back to see and to also bring back what I learned in Canada, which is one of them being our peaceful coexistence, where we respect diversity as a value instead of as its enemy. So I want to see those kind of gifts that Canada has given us through our citizenship, my adapted citizenship, to come back to Ethiopia and see it in practice.
Mr. Getachew, thank you so much for your time today.
Thank you.
Hi, I'm Vashi Capellos, host of Power in Politics. See more of our show by subscribing to the CBC News channel or click the link for another video.